A lot of people, like a lot of industries, are questioning, am I going to be needed? And I want to be needed. So therefore, how do I show my value and show that I can critically think where a computer and AI cannot? Because the tools are just tools. You have to have it in you to actually take that first step and fall down and decide to get back up again. The platform isn't the problem, it's your mindset. If people don't embrace what is coming or what is here and don't utilize it and take the time to learn how this is used, there is no resting on your laurels because your laurels are in the digital world now. There's a million of us out there who can do it. That's the challenge, and that's the thing that's keeping a lot of people up at night, especially in real estate.
You are listening to the number one real estate podcast in the world. We talk with the real estate professionals all across North America, but their wins, losses, lessons, and stories help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm joined with Vikram Deal, also of Sheridan Street. What's up, man? How you doing? What's happening? We got a special guest today. Before we intro that guest, we just got back from Nashville. Like, tell listeners about what happened in Nashville and then what happened in Miami.
I think one of the reasons why we align so well is personal growth and development is probably the number one name of the game of why some people make it and some don't.
Totally.
Sales is the hardest thing you're going to do in your life for most people. And it's also where you get the most rejection. So having a core group of people that are building you up, where you could talk about money, you could talk about wins, you could talk about losses, right? And they build you up because they've either been there or they've trained people through it. Where it's not weird, right? You know, you tell some people your goals and they're like, well, that's super big. And then you feel weird. So having an open forum where you can talk about profit, loss, wins, losses, kind of like what our intro is, a place where people can talk about those things is super cool. And then Miami, it's a great marketing event. People talked about a lot of cool things that most agents will never do, but they go to the events to feel good about themselves. And then they come home with 20 pages of notes and they go right back to doing the same exact thing they've been doing for the last couple of years, which it's 10% do and 90% cheerlead. Unfortunately, I'd love to get that to 50% do and 50% cheerlead because then more people are making money. You gave an insane talk where you delivered. You may as well just give that link out here where you gave the whole playbook on like how to do everything. And unfortunately it takes so much work to do what you do so well. That was my trip, man. And now I'm in Colombia, and then tomorrow I leave to a week of Joe Dispenza. So short trip, man. A lot of coffee today. What about you?
Yeah, we had a great time with real agents, man. Like it was, I had a ton of fun, being able to kind of unpack a really cool story at the very beginning of my talk where, for those that don't know, my office got broken into back in 2019. I got to share that story. I haven't shared that story publicly other than in my book. But really exciting to kind of be able to get in front of agents, be able to talk to them, be able to kind of give them some value. So that was a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun to hang out with Sharon. But yeah, back in Medellin, and we got a guest today. And this all, like everything that we do with Real, we actually met our guest today, Brett, from a Real Rise sponsorship that we have, and we're a partner with Real Agents, and so is Brett's company. So Brett, why don't you give kind of a 30 to 60 second Cliff Notes version on kind of like who you are, and then we kind of hop into some of the topics we want to jam about today.
Yeah. My name is Brett Levitt. I work at Design company, been in the industry for 25 years. For the first 18 of them, I own the second largest real estate manufacturing company in the country, a competitor to D. Over the course of the time, acquired 8 companies. In 2018, divested to a private equity company, continued to run it till September of 23, and then decided it was time for a change and joined my friend and owner at Design, and figured that the people who had manufactured most should join forces and see what we could do in this industry. So it's been really fun. And then as my quote unquote side gig, I also teach at the MBA level at the Kelley School of Business, Indiana University. So go Hoosiers. Yeah, I think it's the expectation of what AI, or the confusion, frankly, of what AI is going to be and how people utilize it. So I think people have gotten pretty comfortable with the idea of ChatGPT. I think people have seen AI, whether they know it or not, in their online chat interactions with companies. But I think there's, at the real estate level, people are using it to create descriptions, but the endless possibilities of even just from the writing of contracts. I think a lot of people, like a lot of industries, are questioning, am I going to be needed?
Yeah.
And I want to be needed. So therefore, how do I show my value and show that I can critically think where a computer and AI cannot? And I think that's the challenge. And that's the thing that's keeping a lot of people up at night in every industry,
I
but
think a
especially
lot of
in real estate.
I think a lot of realtors, you have your early adopters, you have your mainstream, and then you have your late adopters. I think a lot of realtors, especially the ones that have been around for a while, are kind of in that late adoption stage. Like, we don't want change, and if we don't change, then the industry doesn't change. But there's a lot of young people coming into real estate for the last 5 to 7, maybe even a decade, that aren't coming into real estate because my mom and dad did real estate. They're coming into real estate as a profession and as a professional mindset, where this is the business. It's like the high ticket closing space. A couple of years ago, it was just kind of like where the misfits go. But now you have young men and women that are high school, college levels, where they're making conscious decisions that, hey, mom, dad, you're going to spend $100,000 on education to get me some degree that talks about where, a bunch of crap that nobody cares about came from. And we're going to have a bunch of loans. Why don't we put that into some skills? Why don't we put that into some real development? And they're out there taking courses from experts on AI, on communication, on influence, right? And they're now going out after things that they want to do, and they're disrupting the college space as well, the education space. So, the agents that are with their, if we don't do it, nothing changes. They're already in the dust. Like, they're already fossil fuel.
Well, I think I think the other thing to mention here is the reason that I feel like they're in the dust is because they lack frameworks. Like, with me and Sharon, and you were having this conversation the other day, is like, AI is only as good as the information that you feed it. And if you don't understand these basic frameworks around, and again, you would know this, Brett, like you teach as a teacher, you're teaching frameworks at an MBA level. A lot of people, like, they lack the information, so they can't actually get out of AI what they need to get out of AI. And I'd like to hear from the two of you, because obviously you guys are thinking and thinking about AI. You're using AI. Like, what are some things that you guys are thinking about? We'll start with Brett and then go to you, Vic. Like, what are some things you're thinking about?
I try not
when
to
it
think
comes,
about it.
yeah. But when it comes to AI, from like a framework perspective, like how do people get the right information into AI so they get the result they're looking for?
I mean, I'll take this. I'll take this side from the education standpoint. Is the first thing you have to understand is what's your objective? And if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, then you're never going to know if you get there.
Mhm.
And so, if you want to do X, Y, and Z with AI, you have to understand, where are you trying to go with it? What purpose is it trying to serve? Is it just to write a quick description, or is it to generate a drip campaign to all your prospects, and really do something that's quite special with graphics, with audio, with video? There's just limitless stuff that's out there. So I think people have to just start with, how are they going to define what their success means, and then have to be a lifelong learner to actually go take the time to invest in learning it. Because it's, again, ChatGPT is easy. It's such a powerful tool that most people don't even scratch the surface of what it can be done with it.
Yeah.
What about you, Vic, from a sales perspective? How are you thinking about AI, like, with real estate right now?
I mean, dude, I don't even like to go to Google anymore unless I'm searching for, a restaurant or something that I am like I just go to my phone, and I just now, like, for me, I'm training myself to be comfortable talking to my phone in public. And it's kind of weird. You're just like, blah, 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 right? I used to have a Bluetooth set as a kid at 18, 19. And I was like in the, milk section of the grocery store talking to myself, and people will look at you funny. And you're like, I'm on the, and it was so cool, right? Like, I don't know about you, Brett, but I'm old enough to be like Google's grandpa. And so I think from like a communication perspective, everything I do, I put through AI. Like I even take like our KPIs for our team now. And I finally remembered how to screenshot certain sections of it. And I'm like, hey, our agents want to make this. This is our commission. This is our close. Like, and I don't even tell it the close rate. I'm like, this is what our average ticket is. This is what the commission is. How does he get to, let's just say $10,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue? How does he get to $10,000 a month in, from cash collections, right? What does it take? What does his calendar need to look like? Here's the stuff that he wants to do. And I'll just break out their calendar with them. And it's not perfect, right? And that's the thing about what I love about AI is that it gives you a starting point
Yeah.
to a lot of things. Like you guys both heads nodding if you're not watching us live or if you're not watching on the YouTube, like both of your heads nodded. It's not the end all be all, but it's a starting point. So it's like, okay, you should probably wake up at 5 o'clock. Well, I don't want to wake up. Okay. So what do we need to adjust off of your schedule then? I didn't make up the 5 o'clock time. This is what AI said in order to get to where you want to be with all of your obligations. This is what you need to do. So what do we need to take off? What's not important? Is the money important or is going out and drinking with your friends on a Tuesday? Well, no, that's not that big of a deal. Okay. So right. And it gives you that starting point, but everything we do, just download the app and talk to the AI and let it
That's great.
feed back to you and it gets smarter. It like learns your shit, which is crazy because it talks like me now.
Yeah.
Well, but I think what's important is it's out there, but like you said before I came on, is 10% will actually do, 90% will be like, yeah, this is out there. What should I do with it? Or what can I do with it? Because if you think about the easy part of AI, we all have to communicate. And as a realtor, you have to communicate with your prospects. And your prospects, you might have thousands of them that all quote unquote speak a different language. And I'm not saying literally a different language, but they all have to be spoken to differently. AI can help you actually do that. You can go on and say, create an inspirational speech in the Simon Sinek voice, or the voice of Tony Robbins, or the voice of Sharon. And they can do that. So it helps you actually meet the people and talk to them in the language that makes the most sense to them. I should try it to say if it can speak like to my 17-year-old, but I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's that smart.
I don't know if anyone's that good.
Right.
Well,
Probably not.
You know what's funny is, so we live. I'm not going to tell you where we live because I don't need any more foreigners trying to ruin my beautiful city. It's already impacted enough. But we live somewhere south in South America, and I don't have a car here. So on the drive to work, it's about 8 minutes. I'll just talk to AI. Like I'll just get onto AI. And I remember my ex-girlfriend was like, one day she was sitting there on the couch and she's having this full blown conversation. And I'm like, it's not your sister. It's not your mom. Like, who are you talking to? She's like, talking to ChatGPT. And I'm like, you're doing what? And she's like, I'm having a conversation with ChatGPT. And I'm like, about what? She's like, about everything. Like, I just read this thing in philosophy and I have questions. And so I just talked to ChatGPT about it. And I'm like, what does ChatGPT tell you? It's like, oh, it's amazing. I'm like,
Yeah.
people really, and that was like last year. So I'll just come in and I'll just start talking to GPT about certain things, right? And like, you could talk to about how you feel. You could talk to about like what you're thinking. You could talk to about your performance. Cody built GPTs for us internally with our scripts built into it. And so we can put in our sales call transcripts and it'll rate everything. It's like, hey, you had a 6 out of 10. Here's what you did well. Here's what you did okay. Here's where you really dropped the ball. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like 85, 90% of the same feedback I would give. So like from our sales team perspective, if they utilize it, which again, that's a whole nother, it's always a 10 to 15% that are going to do, and the other 85 are going to watch others do. But just from a sales perspective, in that regards, I was like, bro, you got to teach me how to do the GPT because I want to update because scripts change. Communication changes, people change, right? So like, hey, we had this scenario. What would you have done here? But it's already got the information. So you just have to input the new inputs, the new prompts, and it'll give you everything, which is crazy. The analysis of capability and what would take hours, it takes 1 minute or less.
And here's how I think this is going to impact the real estate industry. We talked about in the beginning of the idea of that you have a generation who are looking at the value proposition of being in the real estate industry, and it's a younger generation. If people don't embrace what is coming or what is here and don't utilize it and take the time to learn it,
Dad.
you might be, to use your word, one of the fossils, and you might have a great group of, great book of business and great clientele, and you might ride your rest of your career and do phenomenally. But if you're entering the industry, and unfortunately there's too many people who are watching the Netflix series, and of course now everyone can be a realtor selling $75 million penthouses in Manhattan, but you have to be the ones who are learning how this is used. There is no resting on your laurels, because your laurels are in the digital world now. There's a million of us out there who can do it.
And I totally agree. And we're like, I think that most agents understand that like technology is, whether they want to embrace it or not, it's happening. But where I want to hear from you guys, because obviously like you teach at an MBA level, and Vikram, you do a lot of teaching and I do a lot of teaching. One of the problems that I think a lot of agents have is they'll say to us, hey, we're just not that tech savvy. And when they make that statement, it kind of limits their ability to kind of be that lifelong learner, like you said, Brett, that actually goes out and does that. Like, what would you say to that agent that says, I'm just not that tech savvy, or I have a hard time using my calendar, which, Vic, you and I have chatted with agents, have a hard time using just even their Google Calendar.
They don't know how to time.
Would you recommend they use AI, or they use ChatGPT, or they use these platforms in order to like learn more about how to do the thing, so they have more confidence and more cadence around, not getting left in the dust and actually using the platform to grow?
Me personally, I would again go a little bit old school and say the platform isn't the problem, it's your mindset. If you're going to have the attitude of you're not good at something, then you're not going to be good at something. If you have the mindset of, you know what, I can be better tomorrow and be 1% better or 0.1% better, then that's what you do. None of us took our first step and started running right away. We fell down and we got back up because we wanted to learn how to walk or ride a bicycle. So if you want to get better at it, the first day, you're not going to be great, but you have to keep working on it. And then you can use AI to understand, what do I need to understand? You can use Google to understand, what do I need to understand? You can look at others to understand what you need to understand. The biggest form of flattery is copying somebody. So emulate what you see out there and have the guts to just say, I'm not going to get it the first time. Let me keep going and really learn. So I think it comes back more basic to mindset and having a growth mindset than anything else. Because the tools are just tools, but you have to have it in you to actually take that first step and fall down and decide to get back up again.
Yeah, I'll echo that, Chamber. If you aren't willing to admit that you're not good at something and that you want to get better, you'll never get better. We live in the most abundant time of the world when it comes to resources, finances, education, everything. And yet, what is the US population? 50, 60% are obese. 50, 60, 70% barely have $500 to their name, right? How do we have the most technology, the most abundance, and yet we have not improved as a society? In fact, we might have even regressed as a society with all the information available. It's not about information, it's about implementation, right? We don't need more information. We need more implementation, right? When people go to an event, oh, I learned so much. What did you learn? If you learned something, that means you're implementing it. So what did you learn to implement? Well, I've got to go through my notes. What's one thing that stood out right now? See, we weren't even taught as in all the education, the hundreds of trillions of dollars in student debt, we still don't even know how to learn properly. So what is the one thing from each person you want to take away? I don't know. I was showing Cody my notes the other day. We use Notability for our notes. So whenever I go to an event, I always have my iPad with me. And I was like, oh, there's this new button that I accidentally clicked. And all of a sudden it's like generating all this crap. And I'm like, what the hell did I do? Like, don't delete my 52 pages of notes, right? Like, and all of a sudden I got this whole breakdown. And it took my handwritten notes and it AI generated an entire flow. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And it could see where I was highlighting things. So it was like, it's got sections built out. I was like, wow.
Yeah, work smarter.
And so like, That's AI running in the background for you. And it's just a beta thing on Notability. I just happened to accidentally click it, and all of a sudden all this stuff comes out. So it's not about saying you're good or bad at something. If you're not good at something, right? Like I think it was Ford who said, I might not have the answers to every question, but I got this red phone that will get me the answers to everything. And imagine that he was basically saying, I don't need to be the most resourced person in the world. I need to be the most resourceful person in the world.
Yeah, that's great.
And when it comes to technology and it comes to AI and it comes to all these new platforms, it's not that you're not good at those. The truth is you haven't set a time block to put the energy into learning it. You can get good at anything. It doesn't matter how old you are. My grandma who got an iPad at 85 years old, she crushed it. She had FaceTime running, WhatsApp running. She had all of the weather reports for every one of her grandkids in every part of the world. She knew how to plug all of those in, right? And if she was still alive, I guarantee you she'd probably be learning how to do like some AI crap with it, right? Like how to quilt better, how to knit better, how to be faster. It's not, everything comes down to, are you willing to put the time into learning? And if you are, then you're humble enough to be shitty at first, then you learn anything you want. But they're not willing to do that because it's frustrating and it's hard.
And it's owning your time to say, I'm not going to listen to all the noise. I'm going to listen to some of it and quickly get rid of all the BS and say, I'm going to hone in and spend my time here, and I'm going to own my time and not get wasted and bogged down by everyone else. So I think it's across the board.
How are you, Cody, using AI? Because I know you just delivered a presentation that my head was spinning on. I was like, thank God you're doing some of this stuff. Cause it's not that I can't learn it. I just don't have the patience to want to learn it. Like that's not my thing that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, but the difference is you have a partner that understands it. You're great at sales. Like, again, like I would say,
how are
like,
you using AI?
yeah. So something I would say to real estate agents to kind of answer my question would be like, you have two options. You either learn it as a real estate agent and do it, or you find a partner somebody that you can partner with in order to actually go and do it, because you're going to get left behind if you don't use some of the capacities that AI has. We use it in a ton of different ways. Like we've been using like automations with Zapier for years. Like this has been, AI just put everything on steroids for us, really, at the end of the day. Like we were already a fairly automated business, but now we're starting to think about more front facing concepts. Like you said, like the AI that allows us to review call transcripts. That's something that I put together because I'm like, okay, these call reviews are taking anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes per review. When I use AI and give it like really like a star rating out of 5, and we can spit this out in less than 30 seconds. So if you think about like what AI has done is it's compressed the amount of time we spend on a project or we spend on a task. That's a good example of one. Writing emails. If you're not you're not using AI to write emails, I think you're just crazy. We have a custom GPT that we use that we gave away at the event. There's a link in the comment section below. We'll get you access to that if you're listening to the podcast right now. But I want to come back to this. Like AI is going to compress time, but you still have to understand the concepts and the frameworks in order to compress that time. So there's still a level of, I gotta understand the frameworks. Like if I want to talk like Gary Halbert, who's a super famous copywriter, I need to understand the way that he spoke in order to actually put into terms a framework that actually pulls out the right copy to get the result we're looking for. So a lot of people call them prompts in our world. Really, at the end of the day, all they are frameworks. I personally believe that the better agents become at actually like putting complex ideas into frameworks. If anyone has listened to Sharon speak, that's what he does really, really well. He takes really complex ideas and he drops them down into frameworks that are easily able to be digested and be able to kind of like be put out in the marketplace. So that's what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about AI.
Let me show you guys something here real quick. So while we're talking, I put a simple 1-line prompt. Build me a time block as a realtor to do 2 deals a month. Daily breakdown, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. personal development, right? Study your script, study your stuff. 2 hours right? 8 a.m. to 9 power hour, 9 to 11 lead generation, right? 3 hours of prospecting, but 1 is just nurturing your follow-ups. 11 to 12, create your content. 12 to 1, lunch and recharge, right? Showings, presentations, whatever. 3 to 4, and it says network with lenders, attorneys, or referred partners, right? So you should never go out to lunch with realtors. You go out lunch with people who can put money in your pocket. 3 to 4 is your business operations. 4 to 6, more prospecting time, right? 6 to 7, your community building. Now, this is a framework, right? Like if you gave this to me, I'd be like, okay, there's some things in here that are great, but like it doesn't take into account family and kids and drop off and pickup, right? But it's like, holy shit, I need a prospect for somewhere between 3 to 5 hours a day to get to 2 deals a month. That's the average agent. They're not willing to do the work. And that was why they don't get the results. But that was a one-line prompt, guys. Like,
Yeah.
crazy how good it was, right?
But 90% of the agents will look at that and be like, they won't even get halfway through because there's too many line items. It's too overwhelming from the get-go, and which goes back to mindset. And yeah, I mean, you got to put into work if you want the results.
Totally, bro.
If there was one thing you could give to agents as we embark on 2025, whether it be around mindset, around business, around AI, what is that one piece of advice you would give them as we kind of like wrap up today?
I mean, I would just say it's in 2 lines. Define what success means for 2025. Define what your success in 2025 would be, and then make sure you are in the right mindset and own your time to go actually make it happen. And we say in our own business, you don't need home runs. You need 365 days of base hits. That's it. Every day does not need to be a home run. So I would take it from there.
And if somebody were to want to reach you, they want to kind of reach out, learn a little bit more about what you're up to with D-Signs, where can they kind of contact you directly?
Yeah, they can contact me first of all on LinkedIn, Brett Levitt. My email address at dsign is Brett, BRETTL @dsign.com. That's DEESIGN.com. Those are the easiest ways. You'll see me at some events and around the industry.
I'm sure we'll see you around. Brett, thanks so much for sharing with us so openly today. And it was a great chat today about AI. And I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the Our Agent Podcast. All we ask is we don't monetize these. We just ask that you leave us a review on iTunes. That's generally where majority of people consume our content. Leave us a review on iTunes. It helps us reach more real estate agents with really great information. We'll see you in the next episode.